Howdy, and welcome to tonight's panel on contracts post-COVID. I'm Ethan Baird from NERFA, and I wanted to welcome everyone here. Thank you for being here. This is a very important conversation as there are all kinds of changes and questions and things that both artists and venues are going to have to renegotiate in the nature of their relationship. And it's important to us that we offer you some insight into that, and I am very excited to listen to the panelists this evening. I also want to let you know about upcoming events that we're going to be having within our community and organization. In 2 weeks, just shy of 2 weeks, on June 30th, Wednesday night at 7 p.m., we're going to have a community meeting that will live on both YouTube and Facebook. It will be open to the general populace, and this will be our opportunity to talk through what's going on with our virtual conference this November, ways that you could be involved, and all of the content that we're trying to jam pack into making it as enjoyable an experience as we can have, unfortunately, without being there to see each other. And man, we miss you. So we hope you miss us too. And the day after, on July 1st, we are having a wonderful panel co-hosted by B&H Audio Video, talking about music videos. For folks that have been paying attention, that's something we've been focusing on a little bit because it is a new form of content to most of the members of our community, and it's frankly a form of content that is being rapidly devoured in the outside world. When people are talking about the ways to get seen, to be seen in the audio world being limited to streaming like Spotify, the truth of the matter is video streaming has opened new doors for artists all over the place. So they're going to talk, the panelists are going to talk a little bit about how that works for them. We've got some video professionals as well as musicians that have really focused on that. Our own Heather Lloyd from Amy and winner of last month's spot, one of the winners of last month's spotlight thing will be spotlight contest, I guess, will be on that panel, as well as some other really wonderful people. So we hope you show up for that as well. And those are the next two key things. We still have peer groups going on. I know folks are starting to get out and enjoy the sunlight. And man, I don't mean to stop you from doing that. I'm trying to do it too, from this little cave. But we still want you to know that we have those opportunities to talk to artists. I know there is sort of a key thing going on in the artist community about what are we comfortable with, what's safe, what isn't safe. Should we be booking? Should we all be trying to book? If we're all trying to book, are we all going to create this log jam? We're all trying to get through the door at the same time. So that's part of the conversation that we're having in those spaces. Feel free to join us. We'd love to have you. Same with the presenters. So that's what we have coming up. We hope to see you. We hope we can be part of it. And with that being said, I want to bring in Biff Kennedy, who will be moderating tonight's panel, the wonderful, amazing, exquisite Biff Kennedy, and
lovely and talented,
and fashionable too with that hat. I think it's a wonderful hat.
This is in honor of our Canadian guest this evening.
Yes, excellent. Well, that's that is one of those. I almost said fun. Fun's not the right word. That's one of those wrinkles that I think the majority of the Southern NERFA community doesn't really keep in mind what's going on north of the border. So, I'm really happy that we're going to have Mark's perspective on that. So, with that being said, Biff, you're running this rodeo. You are the man behind the curtain as far as tonight goes. What do you want to talk about before you invite everyone on, or you just want to get your folks on?
I would offer a prayer, but instead, let's find our esteemed panelists and introduce them and get them underway.
Excellent. With that, I will say goodbye and have a wonderful talk. I'm looking forward to listening.
should be seeing Christianna and
Hi.
Sarah and Mark.
Hello.
Wow. The technology is working. This is
We're
great.
here.
Thank you to the three of you for joining us tonight and sharing your expertise. We're going to try and cover a lot of ground in an hour. A lot of changes going on in contract land, in touring land. Probably some changes going on while we're having this conversation. Sarah, if your phone rings, it may be a contract amendment.
Right. If it's an offer, I might have to get at.
I totally understand. Yes, in today's world, stop everything to grab the offer.
So Biff, I'm on a cell phone. I can't see what your hat says. What is it?
SoCan.
Oh, SoCan. Oh, okay, nice.
SoCan.
The people with the mailbox money.
Yes, sir. We love the SoCan people. And that's in honor of you, Mark, and all of our Canadian guests joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So tonight we're going to talk about contracts post-COVID is the title of the panel. I must say, speaking only for myself, that I am not in a post-COVID world yet. I'm still wearing a mask. I'm still not going out to dinner. There's still hundreds of people getting ill. We're still in the midst of, I think, a serious crisis. And I'm envisioning the discussions we're going to have tonight more about what's going to happen in October or January in terms of trying to strategize for the new calendar year. I suspect all three of you are busy booking and engaging and lining up maybe some things for this year. But by and large, I think most of the focus in terms of my post-COVID conversations are really looking a little further into the future. We are going to talk about contracts. We're going to talk about some of the new protocols that the venues are adopting. We're going to try and discuss to a small degree artists' expectations and venue expectations. What does it mean when someone tells you you're only playing to a room of 50 and we're only paying you half as much as the last time you were here? These are some of the things that need to be adjusted right now. So I'm going to call on all three of our esteemed panelists this evening to share some of their thoughts and their experiences. These three folks are on the front lines. They're doing this all day. They may be doing it while we're having this conversation. Sarah will jump off to accept an offer. So you can't get any closer to the front lines of what's going on in the touring world, I think, than our group of people tonight. So thank you all for joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody that's tuning in. I'm going to ask each of our three panelists to give us, a kind of a quick description of their current employment and their duties. And we will start with the ladies. So I will ask Sara Vale from Fleming Artists, who is based on the West Coast. I think did you say Santa Monica, Sarah?
Well, actually, Fleming Artists is based in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yes.
And then I live near Sacramento, California.
Oh, you're in Sacramento. Okay. So do you tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and how you got roped into this tonight?
Oh, tonight. Well, yes, because I've been doing this. I've been working as a booking agent for about 15 years, probably or more when you add it all together. And well, it's just a daily outreach, it's sales position really, but I get to work with some wonderful artists and the music is the magic. And so that's why I do it. But is that what you mean? Should I add more?
No. I'll ask some questions and, we'll find some common ground here. Did you come from an agency before you joined Fleming?
Yes, I did. I mean, I've had a bunch. I studied biology in Illinois, and then I worked at the concert department, at the university. And so from there, I decided to become an agent. I worked in Chicago for a long time with a lot of blues and reggae acts. I mean, even Johnny Winter and Albert Collins and some greats like that.
Nice.
And in a variety of different companies, really, more of a ska agency and moving forward. So from Green Room Artist, it was with Green Room Agency, and we merged with Fleming just in the beginning of this year. So it's been great, but I like the agency a lot. And so I've had a lot of variety of types of agencies I've worked in.
Mm-hmm. Did you bring your roster from Green Room with you to Fleming?
I did.
Beautiful. Can you tell us approximately how many artists are on the Fleming roster?
There are about 50 acts,
Okay.
at least, yes, because we're growing, so it might even be a bit more than that now.
And you're responsible for a percentage of those?
Correct. I've got about 7 acts. I mean, we're all somewhat sovereign in our, circumstance, so we can basically choose to expand as we want to, but we have to make sure we can service each act, of course. So, yes, I'm responsible for. I just brought on a new act since we talked last, so I've got like 7 artists I work with.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Fleming serves as adult supervision for all of your.
Always.
Okay. Always.
Yeah. He's the figurehead. He's been in business for 40 years with the company. Mm-hmm. He's a great person. So
I've worked with Jim many times over the years. I've had several artists, thankfully, signed to Fleming, and they've always been great.
Excellent.
Yes, and happy that you can join us tonight representing Fleming and your artist roster. I will move to Christianna LaBuz. Chris, where are you coming in from this evening?
I'm in Philly. Got my Philly shirt on here.
Okay.
Well, specifically my office/kitchen currently, based in the Port Richmond neighborhood of Philadelphia. And I was roped into doing this tonight probably about 15 years ago when you passed me in your classes at Drexel. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We do have history here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Good history for
and
sure.
I'm still waiting for that paper that you were going to write.
I mean, I need another week.
Okay. Can you give us a little? Yeah, I'll give you another week.
Thank you.
Can you give us a little bit of background of the places you have worked up until now?
Absolutely. So I started working in the industry, actually, coincidentally enough, as an agent at Fleming.
Yes.
Initially. Yeah. And then a few years in, I got a little bit of a taste of the talent buyer side and decided that I slightly preferred that. So that is the side of the business that I've been on for the past 12 years now. Initially at World Cafe Live in Philadelphia, where I booked their rooms for about 6 years. And then I jumped to Live Nation for a little bit. And then opened up City Winery, Philly, when they opened in September of 2019, which was only open for about 8 months before COVID shut us down. And so that is, I think, the perspective that I'll be speaking from, the most tonight. I think that's most applicable to our audience. Recently, I did accept a position for a company called StarVista Live. So I'm currently booking bands on cruises. So it's a little bit of a different track for me. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying it. But the majority of my career I've spent booking listening rooms.
Listening rooms, yes. Considerably different than a
cruise trips. Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So let me just review here. You've been with Fleming, Live Nation.
Correct.
World Cafe Live, City Winery, and now StarVista.
StarVista, exactly, yeah.
You seem to be having trouble holding a job. Am I overthinking this?
No, you're definitely not overthinking it. I have had a very non-traditional career path. Absolutely. And it was the timing has just been really working out in my favor as far as, when I initially started working at World Cafe Live via World Cafe Live at the Queen when they opened down in Wilmington, which that just happened to align with when I wanted to move back to the East Coast from Michigan when I was working at Fleming. And then Live Nation took over the Queen, so that's how that happened.
Yes.
And then City Winery, obviously being a super respected, well-established giant in the world that we live in. Once I got word that they were opening a venue in Philadelphia, I definitely wanted to be a part of that. I like opening venues.
Okay.
Fun for me.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then
I like working with new artists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. So you're not having trouble holding a job, as it turns out.
No,
You're becoming more valuable every day.
Thanks.
Yeah, totally. Think of, all those experiences. Approximately how many bands did you book at World Cafe in Philadelphia when they had 2 stages run?
Oh, it would have to be about $650 a year.
650 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
They are open every day, but also do a lot of private events.
Yes.
So, some Saturdays and, Sundays are tied up with weddings and mitzvahs and galas and being on so close to so many college campuses, a lot of university events too.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the dates on the calendar were taken up with private events, but for the most part, it's 2 stages year round. And same with City Winery, actually. They're not even closed on Christmas, but they are closed on Thanksgiving.
Wow. And you had two stages going at City Winery as well.
Yep.
Yeah. That is a lot of juggling, a lot of contracts, a lot of detail. Oh my God.
Big time. It's not for the faint of heart.
No. We'll come back to you on that topic in a minute.
Cool.
If you would allow me to introduce Mr. Mark Watson from Watson Entertainment Management Group in Toronto. You're coming in from Toronto today, Mark?
Just outside of Toronto, a little town called Belleville. We're about an hour and a half east. But
okay.
To make it simple, let's say Toronto.
Yeah. I know Toronto. I know Mississauga. Actually, I've spent quite a bit of time in Canada. Nice. Not as much in the last year. They don't really let me in these days. But yes, up until...
and we can't get out.
And you can't get out, yeah. It's working out great for everybody then. Would you share a little bit of your background, please, with us?
Sure. I started off as a musician and hung my guitar up after a while. And I started producing records, and I use that term loosely. But made some records, got to know a studio, and kept making these
I think we're losing your audio.
Oh, you've got me now?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
So I started producing some records. Those records sat in closets, and I started helping these bands with marketing. And I sort of moved in that direction of artist management and really started loving that part of it. So, So I've been doing artist management for 20 plus years now. That's takes up 80% of my time.
Okay.
And the other 20%, I have a business partner, and we work on sponsorship and vendor management for major events right across the country. So that's me in a nutshell.
In Canada only for those events?
Right now, but we're certainly not limited to that. So.
Okay. May I ask how many artists you represent in your management company?
Yes, I've got 5 artists, including David Francie and Madison Violet, who tour down in the States quite a bit.
Yes, I do. I've seen them both.
Yeah, and then I've got a writer that I work with, and a new indie band that I just started working with. So, and a new artist from out west as well.
Okay. Do you remember the moment that someone asked you to switch from being their friend to being their manager? Was there like a tipping point that you said, I can do this and I'm going to do this for this band or this person?
Yeah, that's how it always starts. You do it for a friend's band. And there was another turning point where you realized you don't have to be close friends with the artist. And that actually works probably better. So
yes.
But yeah, that's certainly how I started. I started managing a buddy's band and grew from there.
Are you still in touch with your first client?
Absolutely, 100%.
Beautiful. You don't represent them anymore?
No, they're out of it. They toured heavy for several years, and then he decided that the road wasn't for him anymore, and opened up a studio. But I'm in touch with all those bands.
Great, beautiful. I thank all 3 of you for sharing some of your background. I say we should jump into some conversation and get into some of the things that you are learning and we're all experiencing right now. And I would say, along with my personal feelings about the COVID crisis not being over yet, I have experienced quite a bit, and you can all speak to this as well, the amount of contract rules and regulations that are very much regional and local these days, state to state, based on how each state is handling the crisis and how well they're succeeding at it. I know from my own experience, things in terms of the pandemic and the resulting effects of the pandemic are much different in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania than they are in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And you all on a daily basis have to, think about and I guess approach each of those markets individually in terms of some of the rules and regulations that are now being written into contracts. With that in mind, Chris, could you give everyone kind of a quick overview of like a generalized term or a generalized statement in terms of how much contracts have changed in your City Winery days?
Sure.
Versus where you are now.
Yeah, and I would take what you said even a step further and say that things in Philadelphia are different than they are just outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Even, Philly and the rest of the state of Pennsylvania have differing rules and regulations, which makes it that much harder to tour, even just if you're based around here and want to stay close to home. And everything has been constantly evolving. So to answer your question from a contract standpoint, because things have been evolving so much in real time, the time that it takes between an offer being submitted, negotiated, and accepted, the rules and regs have changed multiple times throughout the course of, the numerous weeks that it takes for that whole process to get wrapped up. So, from an offer and contract standpoint, it's been an important thing on the presenter side to keep things as fluid as possible in terms of, anticipating worst case scenario and best case scenario to say, okay, by the time the show gets announced and on sale, we might be living in a totally different world by the time the show actually takes place.
Yes.
So, had been submitting offers, worst case scenario being 50% capacity, but then showing the potential of what a walkout, potential would be if 100% capacity is allowable by the time the show plays off. So it's definitely a bit of a dance for sure, to try and, keep that flexible, but also be strict on other things to protect ourselves. So, to include things like, force majeure clauses, adding, specifically epidemics, pandemics to the particular language to the offers and the contracts, to protect ourselves, so that at the end of the day, we as the presenter on the venue side would be able to make the call as to whether or not the show happens. We're the boots on the ground. We're the locals in our particular market. So, we would be able to retain the right to have the say as to whether or not it's a safe thing to do or not.
Okay. If I could ask our esteemed producer in the background, Ethan, if he could pull up a sample contract that we had provided to him the other day, if that can come up on the screen, and maybe you could walk us all through a little bit of what that looks like in terms of the old version versus the new version. And now that's my next slide. Although actually we could stay on that slide now. I just booked a show at Rockwood Music Hall, Room 3, and yesterday, and this if you can read any of that, this is the document that they are sending out to everyone requesting full audience and full staff and full artist vaccinations from everyone before you are allowed to perform there. Yesterday morning, I got an emergency email from the buyer at Rockwood saying the New York rules have changed. All the vaccination clauses are out. So there's a perfect example of how something has, shifted sort of midstream. And now my artist doesn't need a vaccination. She has one. But all the things that we were kind of scrambling 3 weeks ago to make sure were in place in New York City are no longer in effect.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely been wild. But, I think in our case, we've seen cases where, when the vaccinations were required, people have swapped out band members. And
Really?
so, that's a major decision. And, just because the city lifts the restrictions doesn't mean that each individual venue or business necessarily has to.
Mhm.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. Don't assume that because a particular city that you're touring through has lifted their restrictions, don't assume that means that the venue that they're playing has lifted it as well. So definitely check in,
Yeah.
I would say, just in case.
Great point. Yes, it could change while you're driving there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And I guess the concept of advancing the show takes on a slightly more medical bend at any given moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Sarah, are you experiencing contract shifts between the time an offer is made and the paperwork is signed?
Not currently. Much of the shows I've been booking are outdoor shows, and either they were going into it with a special seating arrangement, be it they've set up pods or that type of thing, distance seating, and or that's really what's coming forward. So knock on wood, the shows that I've managed to book for the summer have been playing out. But it could vary state to state, as you said. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true for every state. I bet it's been shifting, and a lot of them, like this Rockwood situation, which I'm interested that you told us about. So
yeah, it was a real concern 48 hours ago, and now it's not an issue apparently.
So strange.
Just to be clear, you booked the entire United States.
Yes.
Correct? So
Correct.
You'll be experiencing different rules and regulations from city to city and state to state.
Yeah, although so far, and it's not like I've got shows booked in every state currently,
Right.
but I haven't had any type of real issue with it. No discussion. I mean, it was earlier on in the whole event, but now it just seems, and it could change like we see, but it seems like everything's full steam ahead.
Are all of the artists on your roster eager to go out right now?
They are.
Every one of them?
Yeah.
Are each of them calling you every 20 minutes asking about their tour after seeing one of their colleagues on Facebook with a date?
Well, at least once a week.
Once a week, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But
Mark,
I mean, not for our entire roster. I'm speaking about the artist I represent.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I do believe that there are some acts on our roster, that have been more cautious, more conscientious about not going out yet or waiting to tour.
I know you have some legacy artists on the roster like Tom Paxton, who might be of an age or of a touring nature that he doesn't need to rush back out right now.
Yeah.
And he could, perhaps lay back a little bit and kind of let the first wave settle before he makes his plans.
Right.
Yes. Mark, are you representing your artists on the phone every day, finding work for each of them with their agents?
I'm always working for my artists. All the time.
All the time, COVID or not.
Right.
Yeah. And are each of them eager to go out right now?
They are eager, but we're a little further behind here in Canada. We just came out of a lockdown a week ago in Ontario and most of the provinces. So we're a little bit behind. We're catching up. Borders not open yet properly. So we're just, I just took my first new offer today for September 25th. There's been talk of stuff. We've been pushing it off until let's see what happens.
Yes.
When lockdown's done. So we're not in that. I'm sure everyone experienced the whole thing of booking, rebooking, moving dates, and then it got to a point of let's just wait,
right,
until this is over. So everyone's anxious, but they want to do it safely, and we know the highway is going to be extremely busy and clogged up, and we have a lot of dates to honor that got canceled. So
yes.
It's still a bit of a waiting game, but I suspect by end of September we're starting to slowly tour, and by Christmas we're we're hitting the road.
Okay. The question comes to mind in regards to strategy. Are you meeting with each of your clients currently and trying to come up with a timetable, a season of the year? Do they all have records forthcoming that they want to get out and start promoting?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Everyone's recorded a record during this time.
Yes, yes. The best record of their career.
Yeah, so it's that's certainly part of the strategy. When the best time is to release that, waiting till we've got some tour dates so we can support that release. But it's really been a let's hold, wait and see, and now we seem to be coming out of that darkness, and we can start making some plans. So we've some tours in Europe that we have to make decisions on based on if there's going to be limited capacity, because margins are tight as it is. So when we're limiting capacities, does it really make sense for everybody involved? And we want it to be a winner for everybody all the time, because the name of the game is to be able to come back and keep working the promoter, a venue, and that it's a win for everybody. So.
A safe win for everybody right now.
Correct.
Yeah. Could you give me an estimate of how much of your time is spent right now rebooking or confirming shows that were already on the books versus trying to start up new business or new venues?
I wouldn't say there's much time spent on new business at this point. It's like I said, there's year and a half worth of dates, 2 years almost got put on hold. So it's putting that puzzle back together and planning that out. So slowly, I wouldn't say that we're back to 12 hours a day of cramming and figuring this out. It's slowly coming back. So.
Yes. Okay. So the people that have bought tickets for an earlier date are reasonably loyal and interested in seeing the artists when they come back into town. So the concept of just reconfirming an already booked show should be a slightly easier, a slightly quicker process.
Yeah, the issue we have is, one's ready to go, but the other isn't. We're, ready to fly out to, say, Calgary. They're ready to go, but that support show to go with it.
Right.
Go. And so does it still make sense to fly out there for just the 2 shows when really we needed 5? So that's the struggle, and I feel for the venues. It's a puzzle to put together. They've got a zillion shows that they're trying to honor. So and deal with all the government regulations.
That was going to lead me to the question of: have you experienced a large number of venues no longer in business in Canada?
You know what? I have not yet. No, I'd be curious to hear from the other panelists. Yes.
I will come back and ask that question. One of my favorite venues in Canada is actually the Black Sheep, and I'm hoping they have survived and are ready to go back to work over there.
As far as I know, in Hughes Room in Toronto.
In Hughes Room, yes, sir.
On its way out, but they've pulled it back together, thank goodness. So. And City Winery will be back soon, I hope.
Yes, not open currently. Sarah, have you found in your travels on the phone and email so far, most of your venues are open?
Yes, I have. There are some smaller venues I come across here and there, like today, Tangled String, Huntsville, Alabama, for example. It's basically a guitar store that holds really great shows with high quality sound and 100 capacity probably. Anyway, I just went to their site and saw today that they're on hold until 2022, which doesn't say they're not going to open again, but for now they're not accepting, submissions and such. So, but that is the exception for what I'm finding for the most part. Fortunately, I'm finding most venues I'm reaching out to are up and at it, ready to go.
I think that's good news for everybody. For the artists, for the audience, for the business people. Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad to hear that most have survived and are ready to go back to work. Yeah, or in some cases already working.
Well, there's still that fear, I guess. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but that the other shoe could drop or whatever. Like after that, the rug got pulled out from under us, but hopefully not. Hopefully you just don't know until the show plays. But that was always the case. So
yeah, right.
Well,
I am glad to hear that most of them are working. Ethan, if you're still in there and can find the contract that I was referring to a minute ago, if you can put that up on the screen, I'll ask Chris to come back and talk a little bit about that if we can find it.
Sure. And while you were just talking about venues closing, I just hopped on NEVA's website, and it looks like to date, 88 venues in the States have closed since COVID. One of them is right here in Philly, Boot and Saddle, unfortunately.
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
Awesome room that in order to save their larger venue union transfer, they had to sacrifice, I guess, their smaller room, Boot and Saddle, which was a bummer. It's a great venue.
Yeah, it's a great venue, and it's the right development room to earn a place to get to union transfer.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
They kind of lost their farm team to a degree.
Yeah. So what we are looking at now is the vaccination requirement language that we are currently using at StarVista. So basically saying, regardless of what the cruise lines themselves mandate, and just regardless of what the governor of Florida being where we leave out of, say, we are requiring everyone on board to be fully vaccinated. I mean, cruises are floating petri dishes, let's be honest.
As it turns out, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they were pre-COVID already. Yeah.
Yes.
So even more so now. And some of the cruises that have been going out that were supposed to be fully vaccinated, people are still testing positive. That news broke within the past few days. So we are erring on the side of extreme caution. And this is the language that we are using. The top part is is a kind of a more casual way of saying it. It's what is being included in our offers. But then the bottom part is the actual legal jargon that basically says the same thing in a more professional way, that everyone has to provide proof of vaccination, and we're moving forward with this even though we are at risk of being fined by doing it, thanks to the governor of Florida. So we'll see how it goes, but safety first.
Yeah, he's fighting your safety requirements.
Correct. Yes. So there is legislation passed that says any Florida business, and now Texas and Alaska have jumped on board, who require proof of vaccination from their customers will be fined $5,000 per instance if you request proof of vaccination. So it's been super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. As though our jobs haven't been hard enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, everybody can kind of read for themselves, but basically it's a way of saying that we're putting safety first, and will be requiring not only everyone to be vaccinated, but to provide proof of it. And on the venue side, I think that most venues who have opened recently, including City Winery in New York, was requiring one of two things: either proof of vaccination, actually I should say one of three things: proof of vaccination, proof of a negative COVID test that had come back like that day or very recently, or without either of those, you just had to take a rapid test at the door. And they found a fun way to do that, to, here's your test and have a glass of wine while you wait for your result.
Nice.
Yeah.
In the City Winery tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah. COVID test.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure, since the mandates in New York have been lifted, if that is continuing or not moving forward. But I know up until very recently, I think as of a few days ago, those were the options there, which I think is super smart. And that's in addition to reduced capacity, spreading out the tables 6 feet. All the staff wears masks. They're taking it very, very seriously and have done an excellent job doing so.
Great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
As you heard me say, I'm still thinking we're in a COVID world here.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear other people are accepting that as well.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit off the topic, but since you mentioned it, I wanted to come back. Are you prepared to talk at all about organizations like NEVA and Save Our Stages, just to tell our viewers here this evening what is going on to help the venue side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a huge kind of uphill battle, to say the least. I mean, I think that one of the positives that came out of COVID was the formation of NEVA in the first place. You know, I think that it was long overdue, and now there's over 3,000 independent venues that have banded together and in a unified voice and have a, direct line of communication with each other. So they were successful as a group in getting funding passed back in December, $16 billion of grant money to help all of the venues that were forced to close and still can't open. So the biggest hurdle right now is the distribution of those funds. The application process itself was very, very difficult. The website actually crashed when the applications opened. And, it was multiple days before any sort of information was disseminated about like what to do. And the worst part about that was that the communication from the Small Business Administration was that the money would be granted to those who were accepted on a first come, first served basis. So it was like a mad dash, but nobody could get in. But now that everyone has applied, only 90 venues have had their applications processed and accepted, which is despicable.
Out of how many approximate applications?
14,000.
14,000. 90
So it's less than 1%.
have been processed. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty horrendous. The money's been approved. It's sitting there. It's $16 billion. Every venue who's applicable to receive it could get up to $10 million. And the, everyone is banded together as far as NEVA, NITO, APAP, everyone is kind of calling on the Small Business Administration to fix it. Like, guys, come on. This is embarrassing. And I know they're on calls every day at 7 a.m. With the folks who are in charge to try and move this along. And they made the application process so difficult that now it's kind of like shooting themselves in the foot, because now they're having, a hard time kind of processing it. But no other industry, I mean, the restaurant process wasn't that difficult. Each of the other industries who had to apply for similar grant money, it was way easier. It was like a self sign-on sort of situation. So yeah, it's been rough. So be patient with your venue owner and operator friends. I would say they're kind of pulling their hair out right now, probably more so than they even have been this whole time.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that money, when it comes in, is not going to be spent on larger guarantees or bigger percentages at the door.
No, probably no. I mean, it's probably going right to utilities and insurance and rent and mortgages. Yeah.
Furloughed employees, getting them back in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to prove how you spend the money. So there's no wiggle room for shenanigans.
Yeah. Is there anything that our viewers who are artists or industry people could do to raise their hand or speak up, to do anything to try and accelerate that process in any way?
Yeah, so NEVA's website is a really great resource as far as, contacting your, local governments in order to just kind of raise general awareness of what's going on. They always have, they make it super easy for you to, kind of fill in where you're from and, okay, these are your particular people in charge, basically. And then you can kind of fill out the info and they fire off the email. And, it's the sort of thing where the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So as, the more emails and phone calls they get, in theory, hopefully the more they'll realize that this is such a dire need. So, I would definitely point people to neva.org. To fill in their respective location where they're based, and then it'll take it from there.
And is there like opportunities to write to your congressman or in some way petition the government with prayer, in the words of Jim Morrison,
Exactly.
to get some attention.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, hopefully, if enough people raise enough awareness about it, then, they'll just hire more people to process more of the applications, because we were promised money. They're past their deadline. They're well past the deadline that was promised.
Okay. Mark, if I may, is there an organized venue organization that has come together in Canada as a result of the pandemic?
There is, and it's headed up by Aaron Benjamin, and
I know Aaron. Wow.
Yeah, the acronym, or the name of it's eluding me right now, but there definitely is, and she's been doing a great job lobbying the governments and getting things done for venues. So yeah,
same thing, to pump some money in, pay the bills, get the employees back into the building.
Correct.
Yeah, and get ready to open up again.
Yeah, and support for agents and managers and promoters, all that support for them.
Oh, there is support for that side of the business?
Yeah, they get forgotten. They should be.
No, it's the catchphrase here has been first to close and last to open, which still seems to be very much the case. And in the meantime, if I have an artist on the road, I'm not commissioning, not being on the road. We're all struggling as a result of that, as are tour managers and bus companies and so many facets of the touring business that have just come to a grinding halt in the meantime. Yeah, it's bad. Switching gears here a little bit and going maybe a little deeper into the woods in terms of contracts, I would like to ask Sarah if she would tell us what a radius clause is.
In terms of, you're not talking about the virtual shows now.
No, I wanted to establish what the old style radius clause was, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me how it's changed.
Well, I mean, I still am receiving them within the contracts for the live shows or the offers, in some cases. It's very unique to each market where the promoter or presenter would place a limit on how often or how soon before or after the date they're booking, the artist can perform within that city or 100 miles around that city or whatever is selected by the presenter. So, I mean, that part hasn't seemed to have changed for me.
The radius clause is still essentially a great protection for the venue and the artist.
Yes, I mean, I think if anything, some of the promoters maybe have become a little bit more easygoing with it. And letting the artists pick up extra shows in the area. And it's what it appears, at least in the couple of things in the Colorado area I've been working on.
Yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear that a promoter is loosening up a little bit, that sounds like good news for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if I may ask you to describe a digital radius clause as it affects live streams, for example.
Now, I didn't personally have that issue come up myself, but I really got involved in the virtual shows more at the tail end. So I think, Mark, were you speaking about that? I think not to throw it over to Mark, but I thought that sorry, Biff, I just took over.
Let's go where we get a good answer.
But because I really don't, I didn't come across that myself, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for us, it was more self-imposed. Just like with regular radius clauses, I really find more self-imposed by us anyway, because like I said earlier, we want a home run for everybody. We want to win for everybody. So I do saturate a market. I want long-term relationships with venues. So to me, it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that show's a win. So again, with digital shows, what we did was just ask promoters, if we're doing a digital show for a festival out in BC, we asked that they just advertise it to that area. So when they did Facebook ads and kind of social, that it was targeted. So then we could go and everyone could support that venue or festival. And then we can move to the next province and do the same thing for that festival or venue.
Yes, sir.
And we were quite clear with our fans saying that, listen, you certainly buy a ticket for all these shows, please, but please note that they're going to be all the same show.
Mm-hmm.
Support your local venue.
Mm-hmm.
And, it worked out very well, and we did that over in Europe as well, and it worked well. So I haven't come across anywhere where it's been in writing. You can only, it's been more of a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Does that involve the concept of geo blocking or geo routing or geo gating, as they call it?
Yeah, you mentioned that before. Again, I haven't really come across it. It's
Mm-hmm.
a bit more of a conversation, and here's how we approach it. I know it's possible, but to me, if someone wants to watch the show from another area, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
And hopefully we're somewhat, I know we're not done with them. It's going to be part of our lives now for the foreseeable future. But
that was actually going to be my next question. So how do you see, I'll stay with you, Mark, how do you see live streaming unfolding over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think there's some great things about it. It's access for people that can't get out. I think that's a win for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, love all you guys, but I think we're all a little tired of this, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's not the same, but it did its job when we needed it to, and it's been nice. So I'm sure there'll be some success stories with people continuing with this, but I would say that for the most part, it's if I was a betting man, I'd say for the most part, it's people are going to be tired of it and done with it.
So you're agreeable to the concept, but not really pushing your artist towards continuing to live stream unless it's something they choose to do.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. Sarah, how does live stream concerts fit into the Fleming world these days?
Well, I do think that when it's able to be live streamed as well as a live show, that it will augment the artist's income.
Mm-hmm.
It opens it up to everybody. And so that is a nice option. And I do think the artists can tend to make a little bit extra. I mean, it's hard to put a number on because it would also depend on how well it's advertised that it's going to be live streamed in addition to being performed at the venue.
Yes. And how you can buy a ticket and put some funding into it. Yes.
Right.
This may be a little early to ask this question. Have you experienced so far, now that things are starting to come back into business, someone that is doing both a live show in Sacramento and live streaming it?
Not really. I've seen some bands advertise it more, not really artists I work with, but larger scale, like maybe from Red Rocks even.
Yes.
And those kind of shows with the bigger acts, but I am not having that an option really for these live shows. There's hasn't been anybody saying we're also going to do a live stream if you're cool with it, or nor do we bring it up. It's just become live shows, it seems. So.
Mm-hmm. So the question may be a little premature still in terms of how people are starting to roll back out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, let me come back to you because I think you're the one that used the phrase force majeure a few minutes ago in our conversation. Can you explain to me and or anyone else that's listening what that means?
Sure. So force majeure is basically an umbrella term for unforeseen circumstances that prevent someone from fulfilling a contract. And, there's a lot that can fall under that umbrella. Acts of God, riots, and now epidemics, pandemics, in bold and highlighted, I'm sure, in some cases.
Yes. We're not striking that paragraph anymore.
No, certainly not.
We're putting it in bold now.
We're putting it on the face of the contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically it means anything that's, prevents the show from happening that's out of our control, as a presenter, as a venue, that the venue won't be on the hook for, paying the artist in full. And depending upon which agency you're working with, you may still have to, they might keep your deposit. Or some kind of negotiation might have to be had. But usually, I think in good faith, everyone would try to reschedule. But yeah, that has been kind of a hot button addition, an imperative addition to everyone's contracts and paperwork if it wasn't in there before, to specifically spell out, epidemics.
Are you seeing anything in the contracts in terms of StarVista Cruises that relates to a waiver or an insurance policy that you must take out, not so much for force majeure, but just for the concept of the show happening or not happening?
Sort of. So, I mean, we're in the fortunate position to, the company has been running these cruises for 12 years. So they have really good relationships with, everybody that they work with. So, for the most part, once all the 2020 cruises had to be postponed, they brought back as many people as wanted to come back, so nobody was kind of just left high and dry. So I think that sort of prevented any kind of like rough conversations or kind of contention there. As far as insurance is concerned, I think that's something that people would like to improve, as far as their own particular policies are concerned. I just don't know that I don't know who's in the position to, right now, financially, but also like who is able to improve their policy right now. I don't know, what insurance companies might be willing to do that necessarily. So I think it might be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. For example, I carry $1 million liability policy on myself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost that much. It's like, I don't know, $170, $180 a year to have $1 million worth of coverage. And I didn't know if venues were taking on those same kind of liability insurance umbrella policies, or if artists were taking on umbrella policies. And it's quite possible the artists can't afford it yet.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it's probably a good idea, for artists if and when they are in a financial position to. I think the crappy part about on the venue side is that they're so particular about what gets covered that, at the end of the day, some of the stuff might not even be applicable. Because, insurance companies are kind of sneaky like that. So, just read through everything with a fine tooth comb for sure.
Yes.
Before upping your policy.
Okay. So you're not really experiencing that on your side?
No, not yet.
Just yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. Let's stay on venues for a minute if we can, and kind of put them a little bit more under the microscope. Mark, are you experiencing significant capacity changes in the shows that you're currently discussing?
We're just starting to have those conversations, like I said. So it's certainly a huge concern because it affects the back end. So that's starting to pop up into some conversations. On the festival side, that I do a lot of work in, that's certainly a huge conversation. And I was telling you on our call earlier in the week that the festival that we see 250,000 people through the doors on a weekend. And at this point, as of today, and like you say, it could change while we're sitting here talking, we're only allowed 100 people a day at this point, from 250,000, so it's it really isn't feasible, at that point.
Yeah, that I'm shaking my head going, it's hard enough when you're at 90% capacity to walk out with a profit.
So so those festivals are working around it, and again, that'll change quickly as scenes roll out. But one of the things we were doing is just the pod situation, and we were lucky enough up here to get some grants rolling for some of those festivals, and so they were renting out parking lots and setting things up that way is what we're looking to do, hopefully here in the near future.
As in like a drive-in type show in a parking lot?
No, more pods.
Pods.
Capacity. We still have some drive-in shows happening here. They'll probably go through till the end of summer, but I don't want to sound all negative here all the time, but we're all kind of tired of those too. It's not the same.
Of the drive-in shows. Yeah.
Not a great vibe for the artist. It's not a great vibe for the watcher, but
I went to one. That was enough.
Yeah, we did what we had to do, right? And it's purpose. So.
Totally. Yeah. Is Winnipeg staging a festival this summer?
I can't say for sure. I can look it up.
Edmonton,
Calgary. Edmonton's on hold for sure.
Summerfest, Ottawa Blues. Are these places going to do shows this year?
Everyone's kind of waiting till, hoping to do something maybe in late August, early fall, but some of Outright just said, no, we're just waiting till 2022. So like I can speak for Burlington Sound and Music Festival is a major one that we work with. And so they're going to do something reduced capacity this fall. And then, some breakout club shows just to keep their face out there in the market. But they're now working on 2022 with their big rollout.
So are you agreeing with your artists to reduce capacity shows? And if so, does that require a significant change in the contractual elements? Yeah,
you got to look at it case by case basis,
Okay.
Fly in somewhere and then, the numbers all change. If it's something local work, then, that's a different situation. So,
and as you suggested a minute ago, the 5 shows surrounding the festival are not necessarily in effect right now. So it's more of a scene of you're going to go in, you're going to do the festival, and 2 days later you're going to go home, rather than pick up a half a dozen dates around it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So one would think you would want to negotiate for a larger guarantee for the festival, knowing it's the only one on the books.
Yeah, and they're in a tough situation because reduced capacity, so that's not possible for them. So
how do you finesse that?
That's conversations, keep talking, and
relationships,
understanding on both sides. And, if it's got to wait, if it doesn't make sense, then let's wait till 2022 and no hard feelings. And let's and we've done that 2 years in a row now. A few festivals in the UK where it doesn't make sense for us to come right now. I'm sorry. But if you're willing, we'll be there 2022 for you, and they've been open to that, and no problem. So.
Okay, so in terms of the UK festivals or European festivals, no one's come back to you and said, if you don't come this year, you're breaking your contract or you're not invited back. Everyone's been agreeable and flexible so far.
Yeah, I think we're all in this together. So there's never been any harsh conversations like that, and I'd question whether I don't want to be working with them if there was. So
right.
No, there's been no harsh conversations like that.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, jumping back to you, are you finding that in booking your artists in venues, that there are new rules regarding masks? I know we've talked about vaccinations a little bit, staff masking, proof of vaccination, that type of thing in a contract. Are you experiencing any of that?
No.
Everyone's just eager to go back to work.
Apparently, I mean, maybe it will as we approach the show and it's advanced, but it's not. I mean, it's discussed, it's touched upon, but most of the shows I've been contracting right now are outdoor shows, so it's more easygoing, and the artists are vaccinated. So in my case, I mean, maybe after this, they will come to me tomorrow and have a different. I'm gonna have more work now. No, but but I think that it's just individual with each artist how concerned they are, and my job is to make sure that what their wishes are met. And so, but in terms of it stalling or being a requirement going into the negotiations or offers, no, I haven't found that at all yet. Okay.
Do you book house concerts for your artists?
Yes.
You do. And are house concerts coming back into business?
Those, it's about 50-50, I would think. I mean, roughly saying, because some are holding them. They're going to host them in the fall.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's going to be interesting. There are some that are just saying, no, we're just not even close to ready to having one again right now. So
Yeah, it's hard to tell where the most resistance would be on that, from the homeowner or from the audience or from the artist playing in a room with 40 people with way too intimate setting and poor ventilation and a 2-hour hang after the show is over.
Right.
It's hard to tell who would be most reluctant to do that, the owner, the audience, or the performer.
It's just unique in every setting, it seems.
Yes. Mark?
Yeah. So, Sarah, what's my first date that I'm looking at? Official date would probably be September 25th. When's your first show down there, do you think, going to happen?
Well, the artists have been playing shows.
They have been, eh?
I had something.
I think, Mark, the United States is considerably ahead at this moment.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
See it on the news every day. It just looks like you're open for business, ready to go.
It never happened.
Bizarre. Right.
It's wild. And the further south you go, further south you go, the more it seems like it's business as usual.
Yeah. That's why I said earlier, no offense to my friends in Mississippi, but things are different in this Philadelphia than they are in that Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. And someone has to know all the little wrinkles from town to town and market to market in terms of venue to venue in terms of what's acceptable or what's not going to work these days. So I would assume in the case of Sarah and Mark, it's a whole new learning, a whole new bit of information that has to come in when you say, oh yeah, let's go to Hugh's room. Oh, wait a minute. Hugh's room has a slightly different arrangement than the Black Sheep, and you have to spend more time walking through each one of them individually.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if house concerts are still kind of at a 50-50 thing, I guess the amount of volunteers that would be participating in that is still not really measurable because it just hasn't really taken that much of an effect yet. I'm thinking about like Unitarian churches who run shows, and you make good money playing at a UU church, but are there any volunteers lining up to seat people and make food and collect tickets and all of that? I don't know if the volunteers are going to show up for something like that right now. Yeah. And I would suspect that also would affect in more organized venues, hospitality, green room access, food service, all of those things have to be also impacted dramatically by the rules from venue to venue and city to city.
Yeah, I've heard from some of the venues around here that basically, the hospitality has just been kind of dropped backstage right before load-in, so that there's just a minimal amount of people backstage as possible. And that a lot of bands have said, you know what, no one but us, can come backstage. And yeah, I get it.
Mark or Sarah, have either of you in your early bookings for September and now or beyond, finding waiver requests in the contracts, disclaiming any responsibility on the venue side for anything that could happen COVID related as a result of an appearance?
A lot of times I'm finding them built into the offers now. Yes. A clause. Often it would have been there anyway, depending on who's the promoter, but now it's more specific, like in terms of spelling out when it just maybe before said pandemic, this show could be canceled if there's a pandemic. Now they're spelling out more details around what that might be, is what I'm finding.
Okay. Mark, any early experiences with artists being asked to waive all their health rights to anything by making an appearance there?
Yeah, yes and no. The more government-run venues, yes, you see that language in there. But for the most part, for independent-run venue, no. It's just we're actually just redating the contracts from 2 years ago, and off we go. So.
Yes, and that's what I was asking earlier. Does this require more work to attend to those that have already been booked, or is that more of it just kind of slides right along? I'm going to reprint the contract, change the date at the top, and everything else is the same, and let's go to work. Yeah,
and our agents, God bless them, they're crossing their fingers that they don't have to do it yet again. So again. It seems to be, not to jinx anything, but it seems to be that I think once things get up and running again, I don't think there's going to be, like another winter shutdown where all of a sudden everything kind of blows up and people start reeling back in and start coming up with, new lockdowns and curfews and capacities. I don't see it going backwards, but, maybe that's just me operating in a more, Pollyanna world that I work in, where everything's great. It's going to be better every day.
From your lips to God's ears. Yes. Yeah. Not to jinx anything, but it feels to me like once we get up and running, it's not going to crash again. That's my hope, certainly.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are any of the three of you booking 2023 yet? Chris is for cruises. Mm-hmm. Yes. Sarah, you are?
Not yet.
Not yet. Mark, pointed towards 2023 yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, I'm accepting all offers, but
yes.
I don't have any yet.
Let's make that clear.
Right.
Sarah is accepting all offers. Yeah.
Schedules are open.
Yes. And I'm guessing some festivals are working on 2022 calendars or 2023 calendars.
Yeah.
In fact, 2022 is probably a little late for a festival at this moment. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Okay. I think we have already determined that your rosters are eager and cautious, but interested in going back out for the most part. Yes. Yeah. Everyone wants to play. Everyone needs the revenue. I know things are a little different in Canada with organizations like Factor that can help fund this whole broken system over the course of the last year. I represent an artist in Montreal who has gotten some government help in the past year because he's off the road and essentially out of business.
Good.
We don't have those same government opportunities in the States, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Are you finding, in terms of holds, for example, that when you call about a venue and an artist that you're now like fifth hold instead of second hold? Is it getting like really clogged up in terms of the number of people looking for September 25th date?
In some cases, yes, it's pretty crowded.
Crowded, yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address that issue in terms of the expectations of your clients?
Well, I'd keep looking for other alternatives. Basically, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. It drives you to smaller venues, alternative venues?
Probably, or maybe a different market. Mm-hmm.
Or changing cities.
Right.
Yeah. Mark, are you finding a lot of people at the door lining up for the same dates you're looking for?
Again, because we're just getting back into it, we're not running into too much of it, and my artists are all very understanding. They know what's going on. And, we can't. It's going to be a busy highway, and
yeah, it's always busy. It seems like all of a sudden it's going to be really congested for a couple of months.
So, and I'm lucky I have some established artists. It's going to be a little easier for them. And certainly more difficult for those developing artists that were trying to break into venues. But we'll find those opportunities. There'll be space for everybody eventually.
Yeah. It'll all sift itself out as it does. Yeah, as my parents used to tell me, only the strong survive.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm like, where's dinner? And they're like, only the strong survive. Get your own damn dinner. Yeah, that was a sobering revelation. Let me ask you a slightly more sensitive question, and I'll start with Sarah. with the change in capacities and perhaps the change in guarantees or ultimate revenues, has that changed your commission position in any way?
Well, yes, the commissions directly come from the guarantees, but I mean, really, fortunately, and we'll see once the shows play out, because until they've played out, it's not happened, but
Right.
seems to me most of them are staying similar to before. And in some cases, it was a reschedule, so the money stayed the same.
Mhm.
And, the deals seem to be really quite similar with the venues that have been reopened now to full capacity, at least, which are pretty much everyone I'm coming in contact with now.
It appears that California is ahead of the curve in terms of getting the pandemic under control initially, and seems to be leading the way now in terms of getting everything back to 100% open. In Philadelphia, and as Chris pointed out earlier, it's different in Pittsburgh, it's different in Harrisburg, but in Philadelphia, they've just eliminated the mask requirement. And they're now opening to full capacity and even keeping the bars open an hour or two later at night.
Okay. Yep.
So here, it seems like we're more catching up to what's going on in California in terms of some of those solutions. So, Mark, I would ask you the same question, if I may. Does that change your commissions for your artists if their potential walk funding from night to night is so significantly different, or maybe it just hasn't really taken effect yet?
Yeah, because I work on commission, obviously, that's whatever they're bringing home, that changes my commission.
Yes.
And I always say that there's no point in me commissioning my artists to death if they're going to be out there and all these expenses, and then by the time I take my cut, there's nothing left for them or no more commission for them. So,
right.
So yeah, those are all things to consider, but we're in it as a team and got through it as a team. So
you're essentially still taking your 50%. Maybe not 50%. Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Yeah. Not 50%. Okay.
I'm in the wrong country if so.
Yeah, totally. Me too. Are you commissioning live stream shows at this point in time?
From a manager's perspective,
yes.
Different.
From a manager's perspective.
Yeah, it's anything that comes in the door is commissionable.
Okay.
And but I have flexibility on everything. So there's motivation there for the artist to keep going. So, but yeah, anything that comes in the door income, I commission on.
Yes, sir. Okay. Sarah, I think you said you hadn't really had a lot of experience or activity in the live stream world so far in terms of changing a commission or even drawing a commission on a live stream show. It just has not really impacted your roster so much yet.
Well, I will say that with my clients, I do have an agreement. Generally, it's a little less commission percentage with the live stream shows.
Okay.
That's just how we set it up.
That's a Fleming
no, that
policy or your own personal relationship with your clients?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Chris, that doesn't really apply to you. I don't think. You're being paid to book the shows. You're not drawing a commission. You're not getting a bonus. If the show does well, the boat is filled. The boat is filled.
Correct. I mean, the only thing sort of related to that is we have been doing some free live stream shows too as promotional tools. So they're not ticketed, but we're just using them to promote the upcoming cruises that have been super fun. But
people are tuning in for those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that something you had done prior to COVID?
Yes. Prior to COVID, no, actually. That has been a new thing, new development. Yeah, since COVID.
And it seems to be working.
Yeah.
Generating
for sure.
interest and moving some tickets and getting people to figure out who's on what cruise.
Exactly. And just building hype and just getting people, kind of in the right mind frame And, it's a neat opportunity for people to kind of reconnect, with people that they might have met on the boat, last year or whatever the case may be, if they see their name in the chat, and so on and so forth. And then I know both City Winery and World Cafe Live have been doing a bunch of live stream shows, both partnering up with other venues in order to present those, and in their own spaces as well. So the City Winery venues that have fairly robust camera systems have been producing their own live stream shows that for the most part have been ticketed. And for special events, last year, like right at the beginning of COVID, or of quarantine, I should say, they, took the opportunity to put together like really stacked bills for like a Father's Day event, Mother's Day, an event for, that benefited frontline workers. And the ticket proceeds went to NEVA for those. And so now it's mostly, live stream shows with one band out of, either Nashville or Chicago, and that can be viewed, pretty much from anywhere, as long as there's not a geo-gating situation, as far as I'm aware.
I do see World Cafe Live doing more national shows through their portal.
Yeah.
I've had a couple bands play at Sellersville Theater, for example, which is a place where a lot of our potential audience today could be playing or wanting to play.
Definitely.
They've been doing ticketed shows with like every other row empty and every other seat empty, and putting, 50 people in a room that holds 300 and having a band play live on stage and also live streaming that.
Yeah. I mean, it can be better than nothing. I think some people, like Mark said, are getting kind of tired of it. And, I think it all depends on how it translates. I think I've seen some really great live stream shows and I've seen some terrible ones as well. So, and I've seen more terrible ones than really good ones. Let's put it that way. So, I think that it's all comes down to, obviously the content itself that goes for anything that you're presenting as an artist, but also your connection with your fans. I think Bob Schneider is someone who has been doing it really well this whole time. And he's got like a really amazing studio set up in his home, and he's got a direct line of communication with his fans. And he's, done a really, really good job of that. Mark Rebele every Sunday does a live stream from his Brooklyn apartment, and it's super entertaining. But on the other hand, I think it can be, kind of, okay, people's attention spans are shorter than ever these days. So you got to make it very, very compelling and interesting in order to make it work.
It's a lot easier to get up in the living room and leave the room to go to the bathroom. Yeah. And be totally distracted than it is to climb across a row full of people. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have like 5 tabs open and you're just like, okay, I'll just listen to this and then forget that it's on or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the clock, and first of all, thinking I could talk all night. I have no problem, going on and on and on. But I think we're at some point very soon going to need to draw this to a close. I would invite anyone who's watching this evening, if they have a question specific to the conversations that we're having, to add it to the chat, and I will try and get to that in the next 5 minutes or so before we wrap up. We did have, as Mark referenced earlier, a meeting on Monday to kind of get our thing organized and what are we going to talk about and who's going to talk about what. And I found the comments that each of you made about some of your suggestions that you would like to leave with our viewers to be just chock full of wisdom in terms of these are the people, as I said earlier, on the front lines of what's going on. And the advice that I would ask you to share about, not contract specifically, but just the overall tone and the overall vibe that's going on out there. I would ask, I'll start with Mark, for example. You had expressed some concerns about valuing artists and performance in the current climate. Could you share some of your thoughts about that for those who are tuning in tonight?
Yeah.
pardon me, from the artist perspective, I just get concerned that they get too anxious and want to get out there and work and start undervaluing themselves and driving the value of what they do down. You've been off work for 2 years. Don't push it too hard too quick.
Mm-hmm.
Hold your value. Obviously, you need to be fair with venues and fair with promoters.
Yes.
You're not going to make up the lost revenue from the last 2 years. That's just not going to happen. So it's a fresh start for everyone, and it's got to be fair deals, but don't undervalue yourself and hurt the whole industry.
Mm-hmm. I get the sense from the time we've spent talking about this up until tonight and including tonight that your relationship with your artists is so deep that they will follow your lead. And if you say, hold off on that, let's not reduce our guarantee by 50%. It seems like your artists are totally in sync with you and agreeing to let you kind of read the big picture.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here. I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship. They're the artists. I wish I could do what they do, and they wish they could do what I do, right? So, well, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that part. Yeah, this is hard work. Yeah.
But no, I'm here so they can be artists and look after that stuff for them and look out for them. So
yeah, and they trust your judgment.
We have any festivals, venues watching, but my comment to them would be that my favorite answer is yes. My second favorite answer is no. I hate maybes and not callbacks. So don't be afraid to say no, and we can't.
Yeah.
So people can move on quickly, and and just let's keep the conversation going, and let's have wins for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my normal daily activities, which is trying to get records on the radio, a maybe is just a mess.
Excruciating.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. Tell me you hate my record. I can work with that.
Seriously.
Yeah. And, to me, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Don't be indifferent to what I'm doing. I don't know where to go with that. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Chris, I would ask the same question. You used the word patience earlier tonight in our discussion. Tell me more about how you bring that sensibility to your work.
Sure. I mean, I would say, just that if everyone can try and be that much more patient. I mean, I know that booking tours was stressful, pre-COVID, and it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but because of the shuttered venue operators grant holdup that we touched on earlier, life for venue owners and operators in the States right now is that much more stressful. Mm-hmm. A lot of talent buyer friends I have right now are the production managers and, the marketers, and are working the door and, are cleaning up at the end of the night and are literally wearing almost all of the hats that can be worn. Mm-hmm. And, it's a lot. So, if you're not getting the responses that you want as quickly as you want them, don't necessarily take it personally, I would say. Just try and exhibit a little bit of patience and be nice along the way.
Yeah.
That's it.
Always good advice, I think. And I'm getting a sense from this that then my expectations for hospitality are going to be reduced.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll adjust. Yeah. Sarah, parting thoughts, advice for our audience here this evening, something you've learned, something you would like to share with everybody?
Well, without wearing the hat of the performer, it's difficult to speak to how they must feel when they're not out touring. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree about not taking it personally, because when the promoters are wearing all those hats and juggling so many interested artists, it's not personal to each individual one if they don't get that show. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the real answer is, except to keep working on maybe their own creation process and see what other avenues can still open up. You know, I think a lot of artists found other ways to make some income through their art, but just without performing in the clubs, part of it being the streaming. But so I would just encourage them as much as possible to not get too disappointed if it's not this year, but it's next year when those wish list venues and shows start coming through.
Mm-hmm. Great. I totally agree. And yes, I think the artist has to see it from the venue's position, and the venue has to see it from the artist's position. It's tough for everybody. And as Mark has suggested, we're here to make it work for everyone. And, as the tide rises, all the boats rise. If we can all just be nice, be patient, maybe delay our wish list to get into McCabe's a little bit later instead of sooner, that seems to be working better for everybody. I think I have not gotten a note from Ethan here, but I think we are pretty much out of time, and I have really nothing else to ask. And other than really just to say how much I appreciate each of you participating here tonight and sharing your time here and all the time we spent preparing for this. I think it has been a great conversation. I've certainly learned a whole bunch of new things that I'm going to steal and apply to my artists and my business moving forward. Does anyone of the three of you have any closing comment or any other words of salutation to the people that are watching tonight?
I think we covered everything.
Yeah, we have
Good
covered
job,
a lot of ground.
Nice job, Ethan. Good job, Biff.
Yeah, yes. Thank
Well
you,
done.
Ethan, for producing all of this, for getting us all organized in the first place, keeping everything running. And at this point, I will sign off and say thank you very much, and everyone have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
a
You
lot.
too.
Appreciate
Bye,
you
everyone.
too. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.